The Renaissance period was the Renaissance period was when Oyibo man created fake pride, recreated, because before the Renaissance period, the Oyibo man was in Dark Ages when the Roman Empire fell. The Oyibo man went into something called Dark Age when the Roman Empire fell. That Dark Age is like, it's basically a loss of consciousness. Like, that's what Dark Age is. Like, Africans during slavery, Africans were in a Dark Age. I mean, Africans are still in a Dark Age, you know. And during that Dark Age, Oru Anu was in high, the idea of using or expecting that your life will get better by doing human sacrifice or animal sacrifice, all of these things. So they created something called Renaissance. The Renaissance period was when they created fake pride, okay? A fake pride, as in, like, they see that statue of Mercury, statue of Zeus, all this. They created all the statues, and they're teaching their kids, like, this is what you aspire to be, this and aspire. That's the Renaissance. The Renaissance is a rebirth of their culture. Okay, while the Renaissance period was taking over, the Catholic was also ruling over Europe. The Catholic, the Jesuits, the Catholic. Basically, the Jesuit was created as a military order to, to keep people in order. Okay, the Jesuit was created around the 1500s. The Renaissance period was around the 1300s, 1400s. So 1500s, 1600s, and that 1600 they started slavery. Because Oyibo man's way of rising is to subdue other people, dehumanize other people. Like, basically the way Oyibo man rise is ipidogaka nono, ogabia pidogaka nono. That's how Oyibo man rises, by ipidogaka nono, itobu made. That's how Oyibo man progress, by itobu ndi ozo. Okay, so after that Renaissance, because of the fact that the church, the religious dogma, indoctrination, religion was still holding the people in bondage, was still holding the people from thinking, from creating. Like, today, the foreign Oru, the Christianity, Islam, that is the power over there in Africa right now. Christianity, Islam, and then you have the Norman, the native Oru, which is in the neighborhood on EU to progress your life or rubbish like that. These are all in the Oru, Christians, Muslims, and the other ones. They are all over there. The power over there. They are holding you. They are holding you as a people, the African people. They're holding African people from reasoning, from thinking, from creating, from illuminating. Okay, so during that Renaissance, from that Renaissance, the people created something called Age of Enlightenment, or Enlightenment era, or Age of Reason. Basically, because Igbo man, all those ones from that age of from that Renaissance period to the Age of Enlightenment, when you start to look at the contents, what they were using, it's all from Kemet, it's all from Africa. Okay, it's all from Africa. Okay, the Lutheran revolt happened. The people that wanted to separate from kings happened. The people that decided to start navigating the sea to find a new land called the United States happened. There was all kinds of people were revolting. Basically, people were revolting on Dubai today. In Dubai, all these warring chiefs. Our land is full of warring chiefs everywhere, commanding people, warring chiefs everywhere, religion everywhere, everywhere. Basically, the sickness that we're suffering from today in Africa was what the Europeans were suffering from. They were revolting against kings. They were revolting against the Catholic. They were revolting against religion. They were revolting against the Oru Anu. They were revolting against everything so that they can be free to create. That's why the Oyibo went to all Aboriginal people and were able to outsmart them. Now, it's not that the Oyibo man is an alien from outer space. Oyibo people are people that used the knowledge of Agwo. To them, they gave it a different name. They call it Hermes Trismegister, Cardamon in Kabbalah. This is, if you go to Freemasonry, Golden Dawn, Rosicrucian, Jesuit order, everything, even that's when they created the tarot cards. All of these things, all of these things are based on the knowledge of the Huti, Diato, Diago, which they called Hermes Trismegistus, thought, Mercury. They use, this is where the knowledge comes from, the inspiration. So because something inspires things, the inspiration, what for it, it's the knowledge of Agwishoha. So if you come to like Nani in Igbo mythology, you look at the mythology of Agwishoha, you understand the knowledge is teaching about how Agwishoha is giving knowledge to a common man, giving the third eye to a common man. The story of Ezanyofu, the story, there's another one similar to Ezanyofu, where Agwishoha, where a man tried to find Agwishoha. The man then started to go into the forest, and then from the forest he met Agwishoha, and then he asked Agwishoha for sight beyond sight. All of these things are connected to what these things are, which is what Agwishoha is a representation of, which is what the Oyibo man call Hermes Trismegistus, Mercury, Cardamon in Kabbalah. All of these things are what they used to beautify themselves and cause the age of enlightenment, the age of reason. The age of enlightenment, the age of reason, which, like, go and find a book by Thomas Paine. There's a man named Thomas Paine, okay? This man wrote a book called Age of Reason around the 1700s, which is around the time, was it 1700 or 1800? Around the time when the age of reason and age of enlightenment was going on, which is a time when they were creating the United States. They had a war with the British, the England, I forgot the name of that king in England. I think it's King George or whatever. King George III or whichever king in England was collecting tax from people that revolted against him. So this man named Thomas Paine wrote a book called Age of Reason. He wrote another one called Common Sense. Age of Reason, Common Sense. These books laid the foundation of what became the United States, the philosophy. If you open the Age of Reason by Thomas Paine is talking about how can we be paying tax to England? How is it that these are the things this man is talking about. This man is saying, how is it that we have issue over here in the United States, this colony that we are currently working on? How long will it cost to take boat and then travel to England to go and report to one king and all this stuff? Why do we need to be doing this? Why do we need to be doing this? Why do we gotta get on a boat? And how long does it take? And then how long will it take for us to get a response back from that king in England, return back to information back to us before we can be able to progress? So you're just saying this doesn't make sense. This is the same thing that the Catholic is doing to us. We gotta separate from all the stuff. From this stuff, the country that they're building decided to adopt this idea. And what did they do? They decided there was a war. The British, the slogan is called "The British are coming." The British are coming is a slogan connected to the war between the United States and Britain. Okay, they had a war where the US defeated them, and then they separated them. So there was all kinds of war that happened during this Enlightenment era. The same with the World War I is connected to it. A little bit of it is connected to the World War II. Even actually, what created Adolf Hitler and all this evil man is from that era. That's what Hitler is. Hitler is a Manchurian candidate created by the Catholic Church and the Bavarian Illuminati, the work of Adam Weishaupt, the same Adam Weishaupt that created Bavarian Illuminati with a man named Nigger. One man named Nigger, not like nigger, as like his name's like Knigge, but his name is pronounced as Nigger. This Adam Weishaupt and Nigger created the Bavarian Illuminati. Nigger is from Freemason. Nigger was a Freemason, and he came and contributed so much in the Bavarian Illuminati. What was the Bavarian Illuminati about? It's about separating from religion, separating from Oru Anu, basically. Okay, then from because during that time the Catholic still had a little bit of power. The Jesuits destroyed them, and guess what they did? They moved to the Bavarian Illuminati, got on a boat, and moved to the United States. That's why you look at the back of a dollar bill that you're speaking Latin over there, telling you that it has been fulfilled. Why did the Bavarian Illuminati came and bonded with the United States? Was because the likes of Thomas Paine and people like that were also, they believe in the same things. They all believe in the same things. So that's why the Bavarian Illuminati came over here and blended in with them. Now, another thing that happened, the Jesuits also showed up. What did the Jesuits do? They traveled down south and created another group telling us, look at these people in the north. They don't want you guys to have basically, because the Jesuits are very demonic. So the Jesuits moved to the south. When the Jesuits came, they moved to the south, telling the southern people, you see, these people, they don't want you to have slaves. They don't want you to have your Christian religion. They don't want you. Basically, they were telling them, look at what they do. What did that do? That created the United States Civil War. That created the United States Civil War, which the North won. The people that the likes of the Thomas Paine people and the Illuminati's people, they won the war. Okay, the war, and then from there the Jesuits now blended in with them, and somehow, because the Jesuits, what they do, they come and they take over your somehow, they blend in. People are not religious people. This whole thing is being caused by capitalism, because you're trying to gain money. It's all about money, capital, money, all these things. Okay, now the Jesuit order and the Freemasons and the Illuminati, they are all in a way working hand in hand in a country known as United States, which is the new Rome. Rome was Babylon. Babylon, was what these people created. So from Babylon, they created Rome, and from Rome, they created the United States. Okay, so the United States is like the new Rome, and that's basically how all these things happen. The point is that we as Africans, we as Indishoji African people, we need something called Age of Enlightenment. See, that's what I have been trying. That's what I've been initiating. You see, all the Oru Anu, and which are the Oru Anu are the Pharisees in the Bible. That's why they created this fictitious character known as Jesus. Okay, Jesus is a representation of a person that tried to initiate the Age of Enlightenment. Okay, because these things are not ancient. Jesus is not it's a fictitious character created by the Flavians. Okay, then the people of the Renaissance period adopted this character and then used him to initiate this thing. All of these things, the likes of what's his name, King James, and all these people, this Jesus, everything that they created, Apostle Paul is a fictitious. All this is a fictitious character. They use this thing. The knowledge that Jesus is vomiting is from Hermes Trismegistus, Gnostic information, which is built on Hermetica, which is built on Mercury knowledge. All these people, Mercury, Hermes Trismegistus. If you start going back, you're going back to Thought Tehuti. Who's Tehuti? Diato. Who's Diato? Diato is Diago. That's Okago. That is a high vibrating intelligence. That is how we show her. That's what the Yoruba people call Orumila. That's what they call Orumila. That's what, all of these things are what these people came and took from us. They stole it from us. Where basically, what did they do to you? They did to you what Yahweh, who's also a fictitious god that they created, they did to Africans what Yahweh did to Ndenkete that were trying to raise their frequency. So what did they do to the Oyibo man came to Africa? Bajie Africans, which is basically what you the Tower of Babel that Africans were building, okay, and made the Africans, made you a dirt person, okay, interrupted your evolutionary process, okay. That's what they did. That's what the Yahweh did. Yahweh interrupted the evolutionary process of a people. So that's what the Oyibo man came and did in Africa. Africans, okay, and made Africans dirt people. Reptile things. Okay, that's what the Oyibo man did to Africa. Something that instead of that the true sacrifice is actually the spiritual sacrifice, which is built on pure self-purification. What happened was that we was reptile means something not banana. Okay, something that a human being. The reason why we are able to stand up is because we have something called All the other animals, they have backbones and stuff like that. But the reason why we're able to stand is because of something called stamina, okay, which is connected to the backbone, which is that thing Oyibo man psychologically, Bwajulu Africans was so amazing in the Africa bolo Dutch people, ndi aja. So instead of ichu aja, ibulu onye aja. Instead of ichu for aja nando, ibulu onye aja. Okay, onye aja. You see, like agwobo aja. Okay, crocodile baja, and all these things are reptile beings. Yena abuna like ngwele. Yes, yena ekwe also nishi na ekwe. Oyo okukwe. Okay, meju onye okukwe. Okukwe. So yena ekwe so also no oku. You just believe. When you believe, like ngwele. You look at a lizard. The lizard is just so also nishi kone ekwe. He just believes anything. Okay, that's what it made in Africa. That's what they made Africa. While they were curing themselves from religion, while the Igbo man was cured. That's why Christianity ran to Africa. They decided to go. They made a deal. Then they decided to push it down to Africa. And look at the richest pastors in the world. The richest pastors in the world are Africans. They're all African pastors. Google it. The richest Adeboyeha. What is the other one? All of the Christo Yakilomeha. All of these people, they are the richest. Okay, they are the most they are richer than Oyibo pastors. Okay, because they pushed it down to Africa. While they cured themselves, they took our reasons. They took our awu. They took the universal wisdom. They use it and moving around the world, moving to Asia, India, moving everywhere, using the same reason to make those people, they show up as people that are better than, they show up as and portray themselves as, look at us, we are better than you, and you gotta emulate our way. Okay, that's why everybody is speaking English. Okay? That's why all over Africa people are speaking French. That's why all over South America people are speaking Portuguese and Spanish. Okay, because these are different fractions of the people that we are following this Enlightenment era and this Renaissance era that they used. Okay, so Africans need to initiate an age of enlightenment, okay, which will cure our people off of Ndi Oru Anu. So if you are curing yourself from Christianity, you gotta cure yourself. That's just a foreign Oru Anu. You gotta also understand that colonization is part of Oru Anu. You have to understand that the native Ndi Oru Anu too are part of them. Ndi Oru Anu. Colonization is part of it. Religion is part of it. The Nigerian political system that is not working for, basically everything that is not working for us as African people is Oru Anu. That's what it is. It's Oru Anu. It's not spiritual. Oru Anu is something that is not spiritual. That is flesh work. Something that is not something that is not eternal. Awu is something that is infinite. Awu means, if the literal meaning of Awu is infinite, that is something spiritual. That is something that is deathless. Anu is not deathless. So that's why, look at the Oyibo, the things Oyibo people have built. It looks like it is infinite because it was built with the knowledge of Awu, which is Awu. Awu is, for example, mother is infinite wisdom. What Awu produces, infinite spark of wisdom, because Awu is infinite. The literal meaning of Awu is eternal. That's what Awu means, eternal. So this is what needs to happen in Africa. If Africa will ever be free, if Africa will ever be free, if we are ever going to be free from bondage, we need to initiate. Everybody that claims to be awake, if you claim to be awake, you need to be initiating enlightenment age. And I'm not talking about us being enlightened and then saying that the reason why Oyibo people have big ears is because they are monkeys, because this is what they did to us. Okay, they said our lips is like monkey. This is what I'm not saying we're supposed to do the same thing that they did. We don't know. We don't need to go if people mad like Oyibo people believe that their age of enlightenment caused them to ipibundi also in order to elevate. Okay, that's not the African way. The African way is the way of Ma'at, the way of Ma'at, the way of Ofo. That's our way, the way of Ma'at, the way of Ofo. So we need to initiate the age of enlightenment, because the reason why, because age of enlightenment, they became successful in it, but they became successful by subduing other people, because they know that we as original people, if they had not interrupted our evolutionary era, they would not have been as successful as they are, because we would have been like, yo, look at you guys, these things you are using to do all the stuff is from us. But the reason why they subdued us was mostly because of what the Moors did in Europe. That's why they decided to say, we cannot allow these people that look like this to rise. Okay, because during the time before when they were in their dark ages, before the Renaissance, the Moors were all over Europe. So you see, basically the Moors were over there. These Islamic Moors, they were all over there. They were in Spain, they were in Portugal, they were or somewhere around England and all these places. Because after Rome fell, the Moors rose. They were in Italy, impregnating women. That's why Italian people look the way they look today. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo is a small. You see the African DNA in Cristiano Ronaldo. Go and look at him. He doesn't really need a tan. Okay. The reason why Cristiano Ronaldo is an incredible ball player is because of the African blood in him. It's not because of Portuguese blood in him. Okay. Go and look at Portuguese people. Go to Brazil. Look at the way all these people look. It's because they all have African blood in them. Okay. It was the Moors that gave these people a map. Okay. So the Moors also helped to initiate the European Enlightenment era, okay, where they stole everything. That's why the Oyibo man now believe that the way to really become successful in this is Itobu, original people, Itobu, us, people, basically Itobu, black people, because we look like the Moors. Moors look like us. That's why they initiated all of these things in the 1600s, the slavery, all of the, it's all about subduing us in order for their destiny to become successful. So our own is not supposed to be like that. We are not, because we are not trying to initiate, we're trying to heal ourselves. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to cure ourselves of the spell the Oyibo man casted on us during his enlightenment age. So we need to use enlightenment age, enlightenment era. This is not about magic. This is something you as a human being, this is something us as human beings we have to initiate. We need to use the enlightenment era as African. We need to use the enlightenment era, not the Oyibo man version, but our own version of that, to cure ourselves of people like Ebukobi, Fadam Baka, Eze this, Eze that, okay, Oru Anu this, Oru Anu that, okay, Nigerian politics this, Nigerian politics that, or even Nigeria itself. Okay, all of these things, okay, are all Oru Anu, and they are all, these things are keeping us down as African people. We can't get anywhere. We can't build. Look at what's going on. Look at what's happening to Ndibo in Lagos, and they are abusing us, and still they can't even give us a seaport. All these things are Oru Anu. Okay, we can't get a seaport in our land, because if we had a seaport over there, because our people mostly do export and import stuff, so if we had a seaport over in our land, we wouldn't have much to do with Lagos. So these people can't give us a seaport, and yet they are over there abusing us in Lagos. You see what I'm saying? And then we have all these other people denying that they are not Igbo, because Ugo conducted psychological psyop, psychological warfare on us, which that's what he used to brainwash all these Ikwere people, all these people that are actually Igbo people, the people that they are Nyoma, all these people. Psychological warfare is why these people are denying that they're not Igbo. Okay, so us as African people, I'm not only speaking on Igbo people, us as African people all over the world, in Africa and all over the world, the only way that we can be able to be free is through enlightenment, create our own enlightenment, which is to embrace reason, let your higher brain function order, which is the scientific term, is your neocortex, be the what everybody should be striving to, which is that's where your heaven is in spirituality. Your heaven is your neocortex. That place our people nebuichi. Where do we conduct? It's where your neocortex is. That's where you're on top of your head, in your face, this thing. All of these things. That's what we need to initiate to cure ourselves from these things. You see? So when I say Oru Anu, I'm talking about the lack of eternal thinking, lack of awu thinking, the lack of awu within, like the inactive awu within each and every individual that causes you as a person, as a people, as a human being to behave a certain way, to do certain things, because that's what the Oyibo man gave us. Oyibo man removed Tegete from Ndundi Shoji and gave you a system, something that is telling you that worship this and you get to heaven. Ebukobi does not know that heaven is your head. Ebukobi does not understand the relationship with your neocortex and your brainstem, because Ebukobi is an animal. So when you wake up, you start to realize that, damn, Ebukobi is actually a farmer. He's claiming to be a virgin. He doesn't even understand. He has a statue of Virgin Mary in his office. He doesn't even understand what Virgin Mary is a representation of. Virgin Mary, esoterically, Virgin Mary is a representation of no thoughts. You, in meditation, freeing yourself from Mbungu na Mbungu. That's what Virgin Mary is. You gotta understand, this thing is bigger than the people that claim that they are the Oru Anu that I'm talking about, which are dumb fools. They think that you are beyond what I'm talking about. You are compared to what I'm talking about. You know what they claim? Oh, Ugoebenaja, you talking about me? You don't even exist, because you're just one governor away, or one president away, or one chief away, or one community decision away. You just one community decision away from being annihilated. One community decision away.